Welcome to Fleet News Group podcast. I'm Caroline Falls, and today I'm at the Sydney International Convention Centre for expos and conferences, actually two, Nat Roads and Traffic and e-mobility. So they're showcasing all the latest automotive technology. There's even a wall of little tiny booths for startups. I'm here with Collin Jennings, Head of Government Relations at the Motor Traders Association of New South Wales. I heard him talk earlier today about the whole EV transition in Australia, and particularly some of the constraints on that journey. So there was one in particular I wanted to share with our audience. So first of all, welcome, Collin.
Thank you, Caroline. Good to be here.
Thank you. I was just sort of like alluding to this session you gave this morning where you were talking about one of the critical issues for the success of adoption in Australia is that we have a workforce of mechanics that are trained in EVs. And so it really is an area I don't have, a lot of knowledge about. But if you could, set the scene for us and what's required.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about the EV transition is that underneath all of the hype around and the push towards EVs is the workforce underneath it. So in Australia, just in mechanics, and this is excluding areas like auto electricians and body repairers and tow truck drivers, and there's just over 116,000 employable people employed in motor mechanics. EVs are a different system. They're a different vehicle, and they require different skills. And part of that is to be able to safely work on the vehicle because they are a battery and they've got lots of voltage running through them. So one of the big things we've been talking about is making sure that everyone can safely work on the vehicle. That means basically what we call depower and reinitialize, so basically turning the battery off and turning the battery on again. And this is especially important in areas like body repair when the vehicle gets damaged. So out of that sort of size of the workforce, we need to upskill mechanics and auto electricians, body repairers and tow truck drivers to understand how EVs work, what they do, how to safely work with them, how to turn them off, turn them back on again. And that is a challenge that we have. We can do it, but it's a challenge that we have because we've been very late to the party in getting into the EV space in Australia. We need to develop skill sets. We need to develop training systems so that we can actually go out as an industry and do that. Motor Traders Association has been leading that in terms of going out and finding the equipment, getting the training packages together, starting to chip away at what is a very large block. So we've invested, so far we've invested about $1.5 million in New South Wales in our training equipment, and we're running our training as quickly as we can. But that's only been over the last 12 months, and we still have in New South Wales, we've got about 49,000 licensed technicians to train. So it's a big task that's been undertaken by industry, but it's an important task because there's two things. One, it's the safety of the worker. The other thing too is the confidence of the market. Someone goes out and buys an EV, they need to be able to know that if something goes wrong, they can take it to a service centre, and the person that they take it to is trained well enough to service that vehicle, or repair that vehicle, or take care of that vehicle when they do it.
Okay, just sort of raises a lot of questions like, why is the Motor Traders Association the one that's putting a package together to do the training and not like some tertiary institution like
Like
our old
TAFE.
TAFE used to train all the mechanics.
And TAFE are going through the process of doing that, and they are doing it. Because we're the industry association, we get the feedback from the industry, I guess, firsthand. So we could see that this needed to be done. So we tried to move as quickly as we possibly can. And TAFEs around the country are doing it. I'm not saying TAFE isn't doing it. We know, for example, that TAFE in the ACT has, got the same sort of training equipment as we have, and I think there's another one in Victoria. But it's because we've been so slow. Australia's been a bit of a laggard in getting things going, and the industry side of it is probably the area where not a lot of attention has been focused. I mean, if we're going to decarbonise and reach our carbon emissions goal, you really can't, and automotive is 20% of carbon emissions, you really can't get to that goal without bringing the industry along, and that means getting the workforce involved in that.
Just another quick question. Are motor traders associations in other states and territories doing what you're doing, like setting up packages like a training package?
Yes, they are very much. It's from the Motor Traders Association of Australia's point of view, it is critical that we get this done. So, very much our I know that our South Australian colleagues have been working really hard on it, along with Queensland, Western Australia, and Tasmania. So yes, from MTAA, Motor Traders Association Australia, it is critical that we get this done, and all the other states are very much into this space. Yeah.
You've got a demonstration on your stand here today with a mechanic displaying how to shut down an EV vehicle because you have to depower them, because of high voltage. You mentioned it earlier. And also, is it true that to work on an EV in, say, a small mechanics, that they've got to have a designated area for an EV? Because I know a lot of garages where there really is only space for one or two cars.
Yeah, there is only one space. It's not so much necessarily designated area. What it is having the safety equipment to work on them. So yes, they are. They do carry an electric battery in them. So especially if they're in for repair, it's things like having rubber mats on the floor and making sure that there is special equipment so that you can work on it. With our training in our head office in Burwood, we do have our EV sectioned off, but that's mainly so that people can find out where they are, and no one goes and drives a car off into the distance. But there are certain things that still need to be required, so there's special signs to put on the vehicle when it's being, repaired or serviced, so that people don't jump in and just assume that they can work on the vehicle, because the vehicle may be live. And that's the thing. So what Anthony and the team are doing here is showing how to de-energise or depower that battery. So that the first step is to depower the high voltage, so that then they can go and work on the vehicle safely, and that's part of the process, and that's part of the change of dynamics in training for the industry.
And what about any fleets? Do you know of any fleets that are coming to you for this training package for their in-house workshops at all, or are we still just too early on the take-up?
We're probably still a little bit early. I mean, the fleet side of it, in terms of getting fleets, there's a transition point, and making sure that there's enough fleets. We're sure that will happen. Insofar as fleets will need to make sure that their vehicles are safe and they're worked on, so their in-house Staff will need to do. What we say at the moment is the safety package, which is called the EV1. That's to turn it off and turn it back on, and get that depowering to make sure the vehicle's safe. Minimum do that. Then there's another stage which we call EV2, which is more around the diagnostics and looking at how to actually service the vehicle. But the first step is EV1, get in, depower, work on it safely.
Yeah, well, I get that EV1's important, but I was wondering, like, I'm no mechanic, as I've sort of stated, but I was just wondering, like, for EV2, as you're sort of calling it, like diagnosing and fixing a car today is just so different to yesterday. I mean, don't they just have to plug the car into a device and it will sort of diagnose all of the issues?
You're not a mechanic and I'm not a technician, but there are different ways of doing it with different strategies, from my understanding. So from what I've been told from the training department, so yeah, there is technology. It's understanding the technology, and it's getting in and using that technology to the best of their ability to service vehicles. Yeah.
So I guess the people that have got it right, though, are the OEMs themselves. So are they organisations that you sort of like work with to develop the training package?
OEMs are there. The way the training packages are actually done these days, especially with electric vehicles, is with the Jobs and Skills Council, and so what they do is they go and talk to us, they'll go and talk to the OEMs, get all the information that they need to put the training package together, and then it goes through its process. It goes up a chain, it gets checked, then it'll go to the regulator to make sure that we have a training package that is fit for purpose, that is industry led. And the OEMs are obviously critically important as they bring it out, because they have, they will train their own staff. They also have all the information about the vehicle themselves. So, for example, I do know that all the OEMs share all their information on the vehicles, especially around safety, with ANCAP, and then that's shared with first responders. So there is a process of information sharing from the OEMs, and those technicians that are working for the OEMs as they're rolling out their electric vehicles, that will filter through. But it's about getting the sort of aftermarket part of the industry, which is the biggest part of the industry, getting that part of the industry upskilled, because it provides that confidence, provides that safety.
Another constraint that got discussed on the panel this morning was just this sort of plethora of different government policies. And I was just thinking, like Australia, we've got such a small, electric vehicle numbers at the moment. Yet we've got all these different states and territories, and we've got
federation.
Federal.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if having all these different policies, are we at risk of getting muddled? And not only are policies coming in, but policies being phased out. I mean, do you just want to talk about policy?
Welcome to my world. Policy is really important, and I think certainly from the industry's point of view, policy needs to be consistent. It needs to have a consistency, because government policy gives signals to the market, and the market is the market. The market will do what it'll do, but it needs to have that surety around government policy. So, yes, in a federated country like Australia, where we have, 9 different jurisdictions, federal, state, territories, and the way that everything is designed is that the states have control of things like incentives. The federal government can do certain things, so there's fringe benefits tax for EVs at the moment, so they can control that, but incentives to level the playing field in terms of the affordability rests with the states. So where we've got So, for example, in Queensland, they have doubled the rebate for electric vehicles to $6,000 from sort of standardised $3,000. In the ACT, they do interest-free loans. So you can get a vehicle and you can get an interest-free loan from the Territory Government up to a certain amount. Those signals are very positive signals for the market, because it says to consumers, and it also says to manufacturers, you can come and you can import the vehicle in, and you can run it as an either or get as close as you possibly can as an either or. And that was consistent through until earlier on this year, when the Victorian government removed their $3,000 incentive. And in the recent New South Wales budget, the $3,000 incentive has been removed, or will be removed, from 1st January 2024. The issues that flow from that, and while the New South Wales government has said, but we will invest $160 million in EV chargers, which is good, that's positive. The more chargers you have, the more confidence you have. But it does send a slightly mixed signal to the market, and it sends a mixed signal to manufacturers about bringing vehicles in, because are people going to buy them? So there is there's still about a 20% price differential between an internal combustion engine and an EV. Those incentives, those sort of cashback incentives and reductions on stamp duties and registration exemptions, just make that vehicle a little bit more appealing. Because what we do know is that you can charge at home for as the Americans would say, nickels and dimes. Fuel prices are currently at about $2 plus a litre. But it's getting that level playing field and letting the market make that decision on what consumers want to buy. If you take that incentive away, then people are probably not going to look at it, and so it can have the potential of slowing it down. We don't know yet. We're still waiting for data to come out from a long enough period in Victoria to see if it's actually slowed the sale of EVs. We're hoping that it doesn't, but it may just do that, and that's not a positive sign for the industry, and especially as we are expecting that manufacturers will start bringing in cheaper models, and so when you start to bring in cheaper models, they start to become appealing to people on medium salaries. They'll start to actually look at it and go, well, yes, I can actually buy that EV. But if it's 25% more, it might make people think twice. And we've been on such a good run that it almost seems a little bit counterintuitive. It is a wait and see. We won't say that it's necessarily a bad thing. It might be fine. Like I say, the New South Wales government, for example, has said that they will take $160 million and invest in public charging. And public charging is a really important element, because it means that if you do have an EV, you can go and charge it anywhere, and you're saving the money. That charging infrastructure is still critically important to give confidence that you can drive anywhere you want. You can always top up the EV anywhere you want. So, yeah. Consistency of policy is really important. It's really important that governments send good, strong signals out that if they're going to commit to zero emission targets or reduced emission targets, that they're pulling as many levers as they possibly can. And automotive sector is 20% of emissions. You can't really do it without the automotive industry being involved in it at that level.
Well, you've made the point, but I'm not going to ask you how you're going to get them to become consistent. Meanwhile, we were just sort of walking over to this interview space, and you mentioned that there's some legislation going through the New South Wales Parliament today that's of great interest to you. So
yes.
Just in a quick, does it affect fleet at all?
In terms of fleet, it's more around the dealerships probably with fleet. So in New South Wales, Motor Dealers and Repairers Act is essentially the overriding legislation for motor dealers and also for anyone involved in repair. So that's anyone that services a car or physically repairs it. There's some changes within that legislation, and we've waited for this for 3 years. We need to get it done so that we can work on some other things. But there's a couple of things in there that might be of interest to Fleet in terms of dealing with dealerships. So one is there's new provisions around online sales. So understanding that online sales are important. We saw that through the pandemic. So there's some changes around how dealers can sell vehicles online. So there's a lot of dealership stuff for changes that will probably be of interest to fleet buyers. The other section other areas around repairs. We're still working on that. We'll be working on getting a licence class for EVs done in that as well. But we needed this legislation to pass, which fingers crossed will actually happen today, and then we can move forward to get those sort of qualifications for EVs done, and we'll see how the dealership stuff works out as well.
Fantastic. I'm glad I asked that question because it sort of is a little bit circular from where we started our conversation about EV training, etc. Anyway, since we're at this expo, I was just wondering what you have been looking at or obsessing about. Have you been checking out all the new vehicles, the EV vehicles on display? Have you ridden the scooter or the bicycle?
I was planning on riding the scooter and the bicycle, and then I got stuck up with phone calls to Parliament, but I probably will ride a scooter. What I will say is I was holidaying with the family in Canberra some time ago, and they've got electric scooters you can zip around, and they were the best fun to sort of scoot round the lake on an electric scooter. My daughter absolutely loved it because she was 15 at the time, so she just went. We lost her off in the distance. So electric scooters are a lot of fun. I will go down and ride the bike. I know that the guys from the training centre have all ridden the bike, so they're all very excited. Yes, have I been around? Yes, I've been looking at some of the new vehicles that are coming out. I think it's exciting, the range of vehicles that are going to be released into the market and in the EV space. And I think it shows that manufacturers are ready to get there. Our issue obviously is mass supply and getting the price points right, but there are small cars, little city runabouts. There's the new Polestar 2 is out here as well. I saw Kia's out here, Fiat's out here. So that's exciting in that there's a broader range of manufacturers wanting to show their wares and saying, yes, we're going to come to the Australian market, and yes, we're going to start selling these vehicles. So, I think 70% of electric vehicles sold are just with basically 2 manufacturers at the moment. So the more manufacturers we get in, competition will start. And once that competition starts, then hopefully we'll also see prices go down. So, yeah, I have been seeing lots of vehicles, and it is very exciting to have them in the space. And as I say, from an industry point of view, hopefully that'll drive competition. Competition's always good because the people that win at the end of the day are the consumer. So, yeah, it's been good. It's been a good day out here. So
it's been a very good day, and I like one of the comments that came from your panel as well. I'm not sure who said it, but it's like, all the bits are here now. We've got all the technology. Everything's in place, and it's all happening.
Yes, it is. It's all happening. It's just getting on with it.
Thank you for your time today, Collin.
No, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you so much for the invitation.
You've been listening to Fleet News Group podcast. It was edited and produced by Isabella Fiorentino. You can follow us on Spotify. Just search for Fleet News Group. We're also on Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. Our website is fleetnewsgroup.com, where you can get all of our stories, videos and podcasts. Until next time, drive safely and take care.